Hey guys, I'm Mark,
I'm Alon.
and welcome to another episode of The Next Man Up.
Just jammy. I love this. What's up, Mark? How you doing?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I'm good, yeah.
Still raining.
It's still raining. Yes, lots of
I
rain.
feel like I'm living in Seattle or something.
Or in April,
Yeah.
not September.
Right? Oh my gosh. Stop the brain.
I'm looking forward to fall. I always like when the summer cools down a bit, it dries out a bit, the leaves start to change. You can light a big fire in the backyard
love the fire pits,
roast meat over the fire, or sugar or chocolate or whatever, right?
Yeah, man. Dude.
Yeah,
I
it's
like
coming.
you.
It's coming.
Okay. I'm not the outdoorsy type, but man, I don't know what it is about fire pits and bonfires and what. I just dig it, man.
Yes.
I could sit outside, like underneath a canopy of stars and just
Let's do
stare
that.
into the fire.
Let's do
in
that.
silence.
We will make that happen.
I dig it, man.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
Yeah.
Man. So what's going on, man? What's up for today?
Well, so I had a really cool encounter with somebody that I've just started to get to know recently.
Okay.
And, it was just, how things go, right? You're talking with somebody and just getting to know them, and you're searching for some common ground. And so we really got connected over this topic, the next man up topic, and raising boys to become men. But I didn't know the guy. And so we were just having a cup of coffee, sharing our stories. And when I got done talking to him about rite of passage and fatherhood and all that, he was really leaning into the conversation, which it's an encouragement for me. But I didn't know like all that he was thinking about, and we only had a short window together. And so we parted ways, right? Mm-hmm. That was a few months ago. We reconnected a few weeks ago, just like, hey, let's get together again. Tell me how things are going. Because there were some other things going on in his life that I was curious about. And before we really got finished with the, hey, how is it going pleasantries, he's like, man, I just got to thank you. I'm like, for what? I don't even really know you yet, He's like, I just want to thank you for the encouragement that you gave me through your story and what you guys are doing. And then he went on to tell me a story about him and his son. I think his son is 12.
Okay.
And from our initial conversation, he got inspired to really begin a process with his son, leading him intentionally down that manhood path. And so they went on a canoe trip. And so I'm thinking, oh, this is cool. You guys got out together. You did something that is in your nature and his nature, right? They got out on the water. But what impressed me the most, and what is inspiring this topic for today, is it wasn't just a canoe trip with each other. It was what came as a result of them spending time, and here's the key word, communicating.
Yeah.
And, the way he used metaphorically the canoe was really cool. Like you steer and control from the back, and yet his son was sitting up front. And so he played this whole message out for his son about someday you're going to move to the back of the canoe and you're going to be controlling your life. You're going to be making decisions. You're going to be deciding left or right or which way to go. But what captivated me beyond just the excitement that he had and the cool story was not only did they do something together, but he was open and leaning in, Dad was, to the conversation opportunity that came. It wasn't just, hey, let's go canoeing.
Yeah.
It was, let's go do this thing, and I intend to be emotionally present with you, communicating, conversing, talking, opening up, sharing my story. There was more that he brought out that I won't share here. But how impactful it was for him to be there with his boy. Dude,
That's
it was
awesome,
it was so cool.
That is
it was
awesome.
such a neat opportunity.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, man, as I'm listening, I can just like hear some thoughts of others in my head. Like, oh man, I wish I had a moment like that.
Yeah.
Or like, man, it just seems like these guys are pointing out that I need to have moments like this all the time with my kid. I just want to go ahead and pause really quick and say, though that story was awesome, no, I don't have moments like that all the time with my kid.
Yeah.
I don't expect to have moments like that all the time with my kid. But when they do happen, oh, I want to relish them.
Yeah.
What a sweet moment.
Yeah.
For this father and his son. Like this moment of like connecting in a way that what he is trying to say comes across to his son and his son gets it.
Yeah.
But it started with, let me take a chance. Let me take my son out on this trip. And on this trip, being open to communicate. And because the father was open to communicate, something sweet happened.
That's right.
You know, that's awesome.
It
man.
is awesome.
Wow.
I read an article a while back that I refer to frequently, and it was talking about how men are really isolated and lonely. And anecdotally, I know you know this to be true because you see it, right? But it was a Boston Globe reporter who was given an assignment and in effect began to examine his own life about how lonely and isolated he was. My point isn't so much about the article, but in that article, it talked about the antidote for that, for guys in particular, is to do things together. It even talked about sociologists examining postures in pictures of when guys are together and contrasting them when girls are together. So when females are together, they're more eye to eye. When males are together, they're more shoulder to shoulder. So the females are engaged in that intense relationship, communication, emotion, right? The guys are experiencing something because they're both looking out at whatever they're experiencing, the ball game, the hunting, the race, whatever it is.
Shooting
it doesn't matter.
Range.
Right. They're together. They're experiencing it together. My point is those events create opportunities within the context of parenting, but they require the communication to really capture the power.
And that's hard.
It is hard. It goes back to what we talked about last episode, right? With being vulnerable, being open, letting your relational, emotional guard down and taking a chance and getting over the fear of losing that relationship or the fear of feeling inferior or dumb in the eyes of your kid.
I mean, let me ask you a question. Because I know I have. Have you had that awkward moment with like one of your sons, like where you don't know what to talk about?
Yeah.
Like that, and so it's like, so how's school? Good. Okay.
One word answer. Next.
Right. So you got a new tire for your bike. Oh man, that was stupid.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. It's hard to talk. We're not used to talking to each other, you know? It's like, what do we do with that? You know? I'll let you take it.
Well, yeah. So in my vast experience and my expert opinion, wink, wink, right? Two thoughts come to mind. The first is just continue to ask and ask in such a way as to minimize the one-word answers.
Right.
You know, the more open questions, the questions that begin with what and how versus is or was. You know, was your day good? Yes.
Yes.
hey, how was your day today? Which they can still get away with good, but it opens it up more, right? So it's that open question, trying to minimize the one-word answers. And the other thought that comes to mind is I have noticed that my kids are very interested when I tell stories from my own past. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're funny. Sometimes my kids will roll their eyes like, here we go again. We're getting it from dad. But they always listen to my stories. Yeah. You know, I think it helps them to realize that I was there at some point in my life, even though you think it might be centuries ago. You know, I was there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
here was my experience. Here's what I was feeling. Here's the reason. Here's how I tripped. Here's how I scored.
Yeah.
You know, I've just found that they respond well when I just tell my own story.
You know, it's funny you mentioned asking unopened questions that aren't like just like, you know, quick one word answers.
Right.
It's so I've learned to ask weird questions with my kids, but for purpose.
Yeah.
I was reading this book, and it sent me looking online at these articles that were kind of intriguing. One of the articles was 100 weird questions to get your kids talking.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting, really cool. So like one of the questions is like, you know, instead of, hey, you make any friends today? A question would be, hey, if aliens returned right now, like if aliens came out of space right now, who would be people that you would say you would want them not to abduct? I mean, it sounds weird, right?
Right.
But like, and then it was like, who would you let them take?
Right.
Like, you know?
Right.
And like, you know, it was interesting. I read the article. It was like, you know, you could dovetail it to teachers. Like, what teachers would they keep? What teachers would they like? And what happens? What happened was I began asking my kids these really like very you know, crazy questions, and they would give me honest answers. Like, oh, dude, dad, like, shoot, they could take homeboy because he was, you know what I'm saying? And it's like,
Right.
and what's happening is like, I'm finding stuff out about my kids. Like, I'm finding out how their day went. Oh, really? Why would you let
Yeah.
an alien
It opens
take
the door,
this dude,
right? You can just walk through the door now.
And it's like, well, that's because at lunch, you know, it's
Right.
like, oh, so how did you feel about that?
Right.
You know, and like it's really cool. Who would you be like, don't take? And it's like, oh, I would not let them take Claire, or I would not let them take, why? Because she's awesome.
Wow.
Like, you know, I had this awesome experience with her, and, you know, or, oh, they could totally take that teacher.
Right.
Really? Why? Because I hate math. Oh, so you're struggling in math is what you're trying to tell me. All right. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
really cool. But, and that's what I think, at least when I'm hearing you talk, Mark, that's what I'm thinking you're trying to say is, you know, we could be creative with it. We can be uncreative with it. Either way, ask questions that get your kids being honest with you.
Yeah.
And be willing to return the honesty.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, you know what? I struggled in math too. Or, oh man, dude, back when I was in middle school, I remember this kid, I would have definitely let like an alien abduct because he stole my bike. You don't take my bike. You know what I mean? It's like, when these connections get made, but it only happens when we open up and talk. And so we got to be willing to be, like we said last time, vulnerable, and open to like talk with our kids to see stuff like that happen.
You use this word a lot, pressing. What I'm hearing as you talk is it's just continuing to press and press. And by asking a crazy question like that, they can't just go to the default answer.
No.
You know, the brain is lazy in some respects. It wants to find a very efficient or a very rote way of doing things.
Path of least.
Right. So that's why, hey, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. Great. Conversation over.
Yeah.
And you accomplish nothing, right?
I'm going to go play Fortnite now.
Right. But if you ask your kids, who would you put on that alien ship and volunteer for abduction? There is no default answer for that, right? Because we haven't experienced it yet. So it really causes them to think. And then when they get thinking, it sheds some of their hesitation, resistance to answering. And what a great way to open a door, man.
Oh, dude. I started doing this like back when I think my oldest was still like in, I think she was getting closer to high school. We would do it around a dinner table. And man, the conversations that started sparking up were just amazing.
Yeah.
And we just, you know, we just continue to do it. But it's helpful, man. It's helpful because I want to talk to my kids, man. But I know And again, if there's any other dads out there, maybe you're like us, you know, in the sense of like you have those moments where you're like, I don't know what to say. You say talk,
Yeah.
I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah.
Like, you know, honestly, we do know what to talk about, but are we willing to be vulnerable like for it? You know what I'm saying? Are
Yeah.
we willing to, like the word I use, are willing to press into it?
Right.
You
Right.
know, if you are, then you're already like 99% there. You know what I'm saying? So,
Do you remember the show Home Improvement?
oh yeah.
Yeah. So I have been catching some of their episodes on rerun lately and just reminding myself what a funny show that is. And, Tim Allen, that character, he's a goofball character and is often portrayed pretty stupid, but at the same time, he has a lot of wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or he has people in his life that give him wisdom. So I'm watching this episode and their oldest, Brad, and his girlfriend were discovered up in their room just kissing, right? Making out.
Yeah.
And Jill, the mom, goes to Tim like, you have to talk to Brad. They are,
I remember
they're
this
moving
episode.
down this path. You have to have the talk with Brad. Right. So Tim's like, I don't want to have this talk, you know? And so they have this encounter in their house where it's just the two of them. Brad comes in. Tim's like, hey, how's it going? Good, Dad. You know, you could ask me any question, right? Yeah, Dad. No, really, you can talk to me about anything, right, Dad? Yeah, Dad. I'm going to go up to my room now. And so Tim gets the satisfied look on his face.
I did it.
That's right. He walks out the door and he's like, I had this conversation. And of course, the Yoda equivalent of this show is Wilson on the other
Mr.
side of the
Wilson.
fence, right?
Love that guy.
He walks up to the fence and is like, well, Wilson, I just had the talk with my son. And Wilson's like, oh, that talk. Well, what did you say? And Tim's like, well, really, I just completely fumbled the opportunity because he was afraid to have this hard conversation.
Awkwardness.
Yes, and I'm thinking, oh, what a great example of how hard it is for us sometimes to have these hard conversations, and it doesn't have to be that topic, talk, right?
The talk.
It can be often just about anything that requires us to be vulnerable or is difficult, is something that's tense.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking that was a great illustration of how hard it is. And of course, the episode worked its way around where they did have the conversation. Yeah. It resolved in a much better way than he was afraid it would. And it created this bond, right? And I know it's television, but there's always reality in comedy.
Yeah.
And what I took away from that is that there's an opportunity, and when you take that opportunity, it allows for good things to happen.
Yeah, man. I'm going to show my age, but dude, I remember like all the girls in school were after the youngest. Like they thought the youngest son was just amazingly hot. Mm-hmm. Dude. And then I'm going, wait a minute, that show's like over 20, 30 years old. I'm old. Oh my gosh, I'm old.
No, that was good TV.
Yeah, it was, man. I like that. That show was great. Mr. Wilson, one of my favorite characters of TV shows.
Right.
I dug how they never showed his face.
Yep.
Like, you know what I mean? And he just, like, it was his eyes because you couldn't see his lips moving.
That's right.
Which is, like, you know, if you're a person who likes to read people, is very important.
Right.
But it was just his eyes and him talking and his eyes communicating what he is saying out of his mouth. You can't see his mouth. You see it through his eyes. And he was just wise, man. Always coming up with these awesome things. Mr. Wilson, to you, buddy. We appreciate you.
Yes. No, it was anticipating this conversation. I was thinking, it was just a good illustration of, taking a shot, missing your opportunity, coming back at it again.
Yeah.
And, I'm not a sociologist. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a researcher, but I am 100% convinced that our kids are inclined toward us as parents, that they want to lean in. Yeah. They want to hear us communicate. They want to hear our stories. And when we offer that to them, it's like offering them exactly what they want. Whether they can articulate it or not doesn't matter. I think it's just they're inclined that way.
Sure.
And when you're able to do that, it's a gift for them, and it can be a gift for us as well, right? It's just
Absolutely,
that
man.
relationship builder.
Oh, a beautiful thing. And so that's our takeaway, man.
Yeah.
That's our takeaway. Like, be willing.
Yeah.
Be willing to be vulnerable and open and talk. And
Look for create those
Create those
events,
moments.
create those
Yeah.
moments, lean into those moments, but don't just let them be things that are done together. Let them be conversation and communication that happens.
And like, practically speaking, like, that's one of my favorite. I love to go see movies, and so I go see movies with my kids. And so, when, especially those blockbuster movies, stuff. And so it's like a date, like, that we go together, and you can't talk in a movie theater,
right?
You can't. And you can't, like, lean over and start this huge conversation, because someone's going to throw their popcorn at your face, or the back of your head. But what I do is I use the moments leading up, like, let's go out and grab something to eat before or after. Let's talk on the way there. Let's the ride to the movie theater. Let's talk afterwards. Like, what did you think about that movie? Like, what did that? Where can you see yourself fitting in that movie?
Yeah.
And whatnot. And talking. Those are the moments. Those are important. They might be small, but they're huge. And so just being willing to use whatever opportunity comes your way to create that space to talk. Man, that's huge, and
That's
your kids
right.
will love you for it.
That's right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Cool, dude. Well,
So let me ask
Yes.
our listeners. Actually, we love stories like this,
Yeah.
where you've leaned into it, where you've done something. Maybe it's big, maybe it's small, whatever. But if you got a story to share, we would love to hear it. Just as a way to celebrate what you've got going on and to encourage you. Even be able to share it here and recognize it. But if you have a story like that, some experience, and you want to share, man, just send it our way. feedback@thenextmanup.com.
and whether you think it was a failure or a success, send it. We want to hear it. If it's important to you, we want it to be important to us. So send it our way.
Yeah, join the conversation. We'd love to have it.
All right.
All right, buddy. Until next time.
Dude, see you later.
Adios.
Deuce.
Hey, listeners, thanks for journeying with us on this Next Man Up podcast. We would love to hear from you. Maybe you have a question or an idea, perhaps a topic for us to consider. If that's you and you want to reach out to us, you can get us at feedback@thenextmanup.com. That's feedback@thenextmanup.com. Again, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, we'll see you later.